Hello and welcome to Counterpressed on The Ringer and Spotify. I'm in the studio with Gilly, Flaherty and Jessy Humphreys. On today's show, it was a weekend of derbies. There were goals everywhere and there was tons of bad defending. It was also a big result at the top of WSL 2. We're going to get into all of that on today's show. Jill, you had a busy weekend.
I've never watched so much football in my entire life, I don't think, than I have this weekend.
Wow.
Like, I've been on it.
It was good, though.
It was really good. It was actually really good. Like, I enjoyed it.
This is why everything kicking off at the same time is stupid. Like, I would just show this weekend, because to have the 3 derbies on Saturday and then still 2 time slots on the Sunday, room to slip in some WSL 2 as well on Sunday. I loved it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, actually. I decided not to go to any games on the Saturday, so that meant I could just sit at home and go back to back to back to back. Started with the Merseyside derby, which was the earliest kick-off, then cruised into the Manchester derby, then had a bit of time to catch up on the Hannah Montana reunion.
I filled this with a couple of pints.
Whatever
and got my way to the Emirates.
Whatever your tipple is, Hannah Montana or pints, whatever. The Hannah Montana reunion thing was bad. And then you have the the North London derby is the late kick-off, and then on Sunday, we're treated to more. Have to say, I didn't bother with Brighton Leicester, and given the scoreline, I was relieved.
I did watch Brighton Leicester, but
the whole thing?
Yeah, but I had like my newspaper and I was like flicking through it and thinking about what I was going to have for dinner. You know,
okay, yeah.
I'm not going to give you a full tactical breakdown of Brighton Leicester.
I was tempted, but then after I saw the sort of Twitter updates from both sides in the first 15 minutes, I thought, nah.
It wasn't a thriller.
Yeah.
Fran Kirby's pass, though, for the goal.
Yeah, I heard she had
Very nice.
A great game. All round, I have to say, these derby build weekends that they put during the men's international break, they do seem to work. United got much bigger attendance than they did midweek for the Champions League. What was it, 26,000 or something? And I do think midweek games are still a tougher sell. Arsenal the same, nearly around 50,000?
46, I think they had.
Yeah, which was a lot more than midweek for the Champions League. So that was impressive. Good vibes at Emirates?
Probably if you're an Arsenal fan, I think going there wanting to see an exciting game, that wasn't that thrilling. I mean, a lot of goals, but not like, if you compare it to like the Chelsea Villa game in terms of being lots of goals and it's very like back and forth, and it's like who's going to win it.
There was a sprinkling of chaos. I mean, we'll obviously talk about that game later on, but
it was just like Arsenal were always going to win.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I didn't go, because I feel like with the North London derby, the marketing gets you. The marketers know what they're doing. And that's obviously Arsenal men's fans will be like, yeah, we want to win the North London derby. So you get fooled by the marketing and then you realise, oh no, Arsenal's so clear in these games. It never ends up or if it's like the reverse fixture of the season, it's really dull.
I was pleased to beat my record for earliest minute on the concourse for my half-time pint from Tuesday night.
Wow.
I went out, I think on Tuesday night I went out after the goal was disallowed. So what was that, like 40 minutes?
On a tantrum or?
Well, I was like, I guess on a tantrum. Just like, oh, fuck this, man, so I'll go and get a drink. And then on Saturday, I probably went out at like 37, 38 minutes.
Because the game was just that dead.
Well, yeah, it was 3-1 at that point, and I was like...
Let's start with the Manchester derby at Old Trafford next. So, a poor showing from Manchester United in this, and before we get on to some of the Mark Skinner hashtag pressure, let's talk about how good City were in this game, because they now just need 5 points from their last 3 games to secure their first WSL title since 2016. So this does just feel like a nice kind of parade of the future champions. They're playing so well. They're enjoying their football. And Jill, I know a lot of how good City were down to kind of how poor United were. But there were moments in this game where I loved watching what City were doing in the final third. And United's press was all over the shop. Their line was too high. But the way that City were playing through them was so nice to watch. And the way that Bunny Shaw was kind of dropping deep to also link up the play. Hasegawa had an immense game. Kasparite, who also scored, had a brilliant game. Miedemar scoring 2. It was just a dream day for City, really, from start to finish.
Yeah, I think obviously everything clicked for them. And these derbies, they always do. I think you're looking at, like, talking about the North London derby, you know realistically that Arsenal are going to control that game, and you're going to have an exceptional performance from Tottenham to be able to go and get a result. But I think when you're looking at that Manchester derby, obviously over the years, it's been a bit like up and down in regards to who's going to go and obviously win it. But I think the way that United are at the moment, you know, and I think obviously the way City are playing, for me, it probably looked like there's only going to be one winner. Like I've always said, I don't know what United are going to turn up, especially most recently as well. I think obviously Hasegawa coming back from the Asia Cup has been huge for City. But they just look like a team who are confident, they're enjoying it, they're being clinical as well. And yeah, it's an exciting game.
Yeah, I think what really feels so telling about this game as well is we've seen, when you're talking about like not knowing what United turn up, we've talked before how United can, you know, like sit in a little bit and be quite stodgy, and you know that's given teams like Chelsea and Arsenal problems, not in the sense that they've necessarily lost those games, but like they've really struggled to score. But I think what you see with City in this game is they just have so many different points of attack, like you say, about whether it's Bunny dropping, whether it's about, you know, Yui being back and being able to push forward, whether it's Viv Miedemar scoring headers, Kasparite coming down and pushing up. I don't think United were even at their best at doing this like stodgy element. They looked really out of sorts. They kind of just looked like they didn't even give a shit, which I think is probably maybe the most frustrating thing. But I do think this City team, it just feels like there are so many different ways for them to pull teams apart that they... And, you know, this is something we've talked a lot about, the move from the sort of heavy positional style that Gareth Taylor favoured, it has kind of been City's hallmark, to this move to Andre Yeglets, which is a lot more flexible, which feels a lot more about exploiting space and gaps in the pitch. And even stuff like, you know, being able to start Fujino now she's back, and you've got Carolyn, who's kind of been tearing it up for like the first couple of months of this calendar year, and, you know, then you can have her on the bench and bring her on. And I think it's just the huge amount of variety they have, and the way they use that variety is something that, I mean, in both derbies this season, United have just been absolutely unable to deal with.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's funny getting a complete copycat of the scorelines and performances in the derbies. And United fans will be particularly disappointed with that. But I just think it shows the level that City are at.
Well, it shows how different I think this... Because I think United have stayed on a similar level, and I think it just shows you how much... And obviously last season, City were in a lot of flux. They had a lot of injuries, clearly. But like the past couple of years, the Manchester derbies have been quite... They've kind of been the derby you want to tune in for, because, you know, like talking about the North London derby, you know, it's normally very one-sided. Merseyside derby is a lot of fun, but obviously because it's sort of more of a mid-table or lower table clash, it doesn't feel like there's as much riding on it, I think, if you're not a fan of one of those two clubs. So the Manchester derby's always been the one that I'm like, oh, there's a lot of stuff riding on the table, and you really like, who knows which way it's going to go, because like both teams kind of have this quite chaotic energy sometimes. But I think in both derbies this season, you've just seen like City really like move away, and the gap between those two sides really open up.
I want to talk about set pieces, because a few weeks ago we had a really good piece on the cutback about City's set pieces, and a lot in this game was down to how poor the defending was from Manchester United. But we got, you mentioned the variety there, and we've talked about that as well already for City, but the way that they can exploit those set piece opportunities with what they have is so exciting, Gilly, because there's so many different routes they can go. Rebecca Kanak's header was ruled out, which I think was a bit soft. It looked like it was because Fujino was marking Valentala's choice, and that is one of City's many moves that they do. They can play short, they can use blockers, they can, you know, go back post, which is like, the Arsenal men textbook. They can go edge of the box, etc. So I was disappointed that goal didn't stand, because I thought United got lucky there. One of the Miedemar headers was just really poor marking from a cross, and one of the other one came from a corner. But overall, I just feel like that's such an exciting thing that City can have added to their locker that other teams, I don't think, use as much.
Yeah, well, you think how dangerous and effective set pieces can be, especially I think in games where, you're coming up against it, and like for example City, there's going to be a lot of times they come up against teams who are going to sit in the block and try and be really defensively solid, and you've seen over previous years like some of the top teams really struggle to break down those blocks. So if you can add that extra bit to your game where you're going to know City, they're going to be a team that's going to win a lot of set pieces in regards to corners, you need to use them to full effect. I think for the disallowed goal, I saw the debate on BBC, weren't there, between like Steph and Farah going at it for the goal. But I agree completely with Steph on it, because I think she was saying obviously Tullis Joyce there. Like for me, when you watch back the replay, I don't think Virginia really has a good hold on Tullis Joyce anyway.
Also, it's Alba Virginia. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. And I think obviously there was also the set piece goal disallowed in Arsenal Chelsea, and it's so funny. I think that in the men's game at the moment, it feels like you can kind of get away with whatever in the penalty area, and in terms of like blocking and holding or like jumping on someone, I guess. But I don't really understand what is going on in women's football at the moment, where suddenly this is like...
And to have it twice in a week at corners, and I mean, particularly...
the Manchester Derby one's a little bit different, obviously, because there's no VAR. So if the ref feels like they've seen something, then, we can go back and watch that. Yeah. But if you think you've seen the goalkeeper be blocked off, I can kind of understand why you've made that decision, even though in hindsight we might say... But yeah, it's really weird. I mean,
they're on insane goal-scoring form, but for context, 33 goals from open play, 14 set-piece goals, which I think is pretty unheard of in the WSL in terms of having that dominance, double what Villa have, who are the next closest. And again, we talk about Arsenal having this gag around set-piece FC in the men's game, and I think it's amazing how kind of City have looked at that in the WSL and think, oh, there's something to exploit here. And part of that exploiting is also how bad some teams are defending at set pieces this season, especially this season. And Jill, I joked on Twitter that in today's episode, and I messaged you yesterday about it, that we're going to talk a lot about bad defending, because I think that was a theme throughout the whole weekend across every single derby. But United was so poor here, so poor. And I think there was this chaos of pushing their line quite high, but then still trying to press, but then leaving so many gaps that City could just exploit so easily. Skinner put it down to tiredness. I do think there's an element there. But then even when they were kind of defending deep, they weren't tracking runners, they weren't picking up markers at all. And I think it did feel like a bit of an issue on both fronts, in the setup and the energy. Like, if you are tired as a player, obviously, Jill, you are going to be slower out to the ball. You are going to be mentally and physically reacting slower. But Jessy, you talked about that almost not having their hearts in it. It just felt it's like where's the split between laziness and tiredness? And I felt like United it was a fine line.
All I will say is that I do think United were obviously the worst of these teams because they didn't win. But everyone who played midweek conceded 2 or more goals. And City and United obviously played the best team of the 3 teams who played midweek. So, I think obviously Jill have a better take on what that kind of feels like when you're playing. But I thought that was interesting. Especially for example, an Arsenal who've been really, really good defensively to concede 2 to Tottenham, and Beth England's goal was very good, but the first one, again. So I think there was evidence of that for all 3 of those games.
You could see how leggy they looked. That was very visibly obvious.
I'd also say though, a lot of it is the concentration side of it. I think when you're tired, obviously I was a centre back, so my running stats wasn't as high as others in that team. But if we'd had a midweek game, and it had been even the late kickoff, all things like that, all affect your sleep and your recovery and that. Mine would always be, that's why I had to speak so much during games, because if I didn't speak or weren't organising those around me, I would have been switched off. Like, and so I think that's what I feel like when I'm watching games, the lack of leadership, the lack of even basic communication. Like, you don't hear it, you don't see it, you don't see like people pointing and saying like pick up here, or even the communication across the back line and with the goalkeepers. Like, it's not when I was playing, obviously that was a big thing, but that's why I had to do what I had to do, because it's always, if I didn't talk and then I didn't organise, I'd be like, oh, and then someone would come off and they'd score. So I think for me, physically, I think players can, all right, you might be a little bit slow off the like initial 5 yards or whatever, but it's that concentration. I think you see it yesterday in the Chelsea versus Villa game. Like, what
Lucy Bronze's head was gone. There was no concentrating going on up there at all.
So, and you think that player like Lucy, who is physically fit, even regarding the injuries that she's had, for me, I think it's the concentration in the brain that goes, I think, a lot more quicker than the physical side.
But also, to follow up on that mental side, it also feels not only the tiredness that impacts your concentration, but also the mental attitude and negativity that can creep in as soon as you start conceding. And I think in the case of Manchester United and Chelsea, I think there's a bit of both of that as well at play, because the team are in tough moments. So United are not in a great run. There was a very sort of proud and resilient way in which they navigated that Bayern Munich result, but they still are 3-2 down in that tie. Same again with Chelsea, like they cannot stop conceding goals. And I feel like that negativity also adds to the level of concentration lacking, because there's a lack of leadership, confidence, trust in your teammates as well. I think with Manchester United, I sense the lack of trust in Millie Turner's performances alongside some of her teammates. There's a lot of arm waving and, hunched shoulders.
Well, there's the clip of Jess Park, isn't there, where she's like just standing with the ball and basically being like, where is everyone?
Totally, like, what are my options, right? And pointing. And so for me, I don't know how you feel, Jill, I think that's an added layer on top as well.
Yeah, it is. But I also think as well, like, the noise around United at the moment in regards to, yes, you've got midweek games, yeah? Because of obviously the midweek game they had against, obviously, West Ham was the game that was cancelled because you got yourself into the final. Do you know what I mean? Yes, you're in the Champions League. I just feel there's so much noise at the moment around my players are tired. Or if I'm hearing that as a player, naturally players going to be like, well, that's a little bit of an excuse already that I can bank in there. That, if we don't win this game against City, because realistically, United are probably thinking, after coming off the back of your Bayern Munich, they're probably thinking City's the last team that we're going to want to play. On the weekend, we've had a midweek game. We've had a tough couple of weeks as well. They're probably thinking the way that City are in regards to form, it's like that excuse is already banked to go at the end of the game. Oh, do you know what though? And I get it, you are going to be tired, but it's sort of, you can still have that fight. Like, obviously you were saying it looked like they didn't really care. You can still have that in your performance. But I just think sometimes when you're hearing that noise of like, oh, but they're going to be tired of whatever the squad or whatever, like, it's not new.
But I want to say, because when I was watching on Saturday, as soon as those first couple of goals went in, I thought, I'm waiting for the Mark Skinner excuse script. And we've spoken about a lot in relation to Skinner. But then I sort of questioned myself, because I thought, am I being harsh? Because like you, Jill, it feels like excuses because you start to predict what is about to come out when they lose a big game. But then there's this balance of like excuse and reality. And the reality for them is their injury list is really long. And they are experiencing new demands on this squad that's already a bit depleted. And then they're facing a team in City who haven't had any European football. So they're feeling fresh, they're feeling great. So I did sympathise a little bit with the excuses, but then but when it's too predictable, when you know that they're coming, and I guess you're saying, Jill, as a player, you're already banking those excuses, then it becomes frustrating. So I was almost questioning myself, thinking, well, I get it, because you look leggy and you probably are exhausted and you can't afford to make that many changes. You were also missing Ziggy Otomo because of suspension, so it was like an added layer on top. But the excuses are so predictable every single time. I feel like I know the post-match that's coming.
Well, and I think also, we've said it again and again, this is a United team who are so passive to a fault. We saw it against Chelsea in the League Cup. I think we saw it against Bayern. That when you're getting results like this, it's like, well, this is also part of how you're choosing to set up in games. And I'm not saying they obviously don't have the ability to go out gung-ho and like do their pressing structure, but I think like do a crazy press. But that also then plays into the tiredness element, because you're like, oh, if this is a team that's like really high pressing and what they like to do is really be on the front foot and put teams under pressure, you're like, yeah, that's really like physically exhausting. But a lot of the time you're like, okay, obviously you are still tired, but I'm like, you're setting up to actually kind of minimize that a lot of the time. So I feel like also then you're like, and you said it as well, I mean, tactically they also did just look like a mess, and I don't think you can put that all down to tiredness. And you know that the injury list thing comes up every year for, you know, every team goes through it once every couple of seasons. Like Chelsea have obviously been in that position this season. City were in that position last season. Arsenal have had periods of time where they've had absolutely no one available. I think that's what can get a little bit grating, is because ultimately at the end of the day you do just have to like get your head down and get on with it. And you know, like it's kind of interesting. Skinner obviously brought on quite a few of the kids fairly early in this game, and I was like, it's kind of mental that we've barely seen any of United's academy all season. And I know lots of United fans feel frustrated that barely any young players get a shot at United, and you're like, sometimes as well you don't do yourself any favours, because take Chelsea starting like Chloe Sarwi in that London City Lionesses game, Lexi Potter getting starts. As a fan, you feel good about that because everyone wants to see academy players come through, and you're also more forgiving of their performances because you're like, these are kids. And I think that's like again a thing with Skinner. It's like you can't really roll out all these injury and tiredness excuses when it's like you have young players available. Yes, it's a risk, but like maybe positives are going to come from it. Maybe it's going to like create good feeling within the squad if you use them.
I also think there's probably reality as well in Manchester Derby where we haven't seen enough of these kids to know if they are good enough to be at that level as well. Whereas we've seen plenty of all the young Chelsea players that you've reeled off where you feel like, I mean, Chloe Sarli came on, okay, it was against Celtic, but in a Champions League game, like they've already experienced that level, whereas these kids would literally be coming on for some of them their first minutes, and I just think that's too much of a jump, and that gap just seems to get bigger every time. You look at the possession that United had, 35% possession in the first half. They were chasing the ball with kind of no success.
They were incredibly lucky to only be 2-0 down.
Incredibly lucky. It could have been 5 at half time. And then what they were trying to do on the counter was pretty useless and nothing.
I mean, Yamashita did really try her hardest to help them get back into it, to be fair.
So, yeah, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on feeling sorry for them and then feeling annoyed. It's like this balance of I think it was very tough as a United fan probably to be in Old Trafford and watch how just not even there they were. Like I know a lot of people referring to it as like a training game, and yeah, it just felt like they weren't present in that match, which if you're a fan must be the most frustrating experience. And what was so polarising is then you have Alex Greenwood and Kirsten Kasperai after the game talking about how important this game was for them. They've been talking about it all week. The Manchester Derby, how much the fans want it, how much they want it. Kirsten Kasperai, badge tap, everything. And we just got nothing of that from United. Absolutely nothing. And when you're a few days away from that second leg, it doesn't fill you with tons of confidence that there's going to be much to offer, but maybe they're keeping it all in their tank to deliver it in Munich, but I don't see it coming. I don't know. that look from both of you.
No, I mean, I said even before the first leg, I'd be very surprised if they managed to get past Bayern, and I agree. And I think, you know, like these kind of results, like I'm sure Gilly can say, like, they're chastening, right? Like, you don't just walk away from, like, losing 3-0 to your biggest rivals and are like, oh, well, like, at least we get to go to, like, Munich on Wednesday and, like, try our best there. Like, that stuff, like, that hurts, right? Like, it's a bit, you know, and obviously you were talking about Greenwood and Kasperai and talking about how important this game is to them. But there are a lot of United players who, even more so than Kasperai and Greenwood, like there are a lot of like childhood United fans in that team who it will also matter to them to, like you're getting to play at Old Trafford. It's not something they do a ton of compared to like some other teams.
What's also frustrating is there were, just under 7,000 fans midweek, and they're watching quite a brave, well, not brave, but resilient, energized, we're giving it all performance midweek to sort of rescue the tie a little bit against Bayern Munich. And then the 26,000 fans who you're almost, and I'm not saying it's a pitch, but you're almost trying to sell yourselves to in a Manchester derby, that for the Manchester United fans that don't see a lot of you, this is their few exposure seasons to you, and that's your performance you're giving.
I think it's worth saying that I think Manchester City are a better team than Bayern Munich right now. So that also then comes into it.
No, but what I'm saying is, it's like, in terms of just the energy of the performance you give, it's like, it's frustrating because a lot of those fans probably think, oh, I'm not going to come back and watch them after that. And it's not all about, selling it to those less regular fans, but that does play a part in these derby weekends, because those are the ones who are more of an opportunity. And I saw some United fans also talking about this online, where they were saying they have seen overall attendances fall at LSV as well this season, and they are kind of looking at that as, is that another sign that this team has stagnated a little bit? But I do think, on reflection, still getting to a Champions League quarter-final in your first European campaign is success. But when that starts to turn, I don't know. And we also don't know how much the United hierarchy pay attention to this.
Well, Omar Barada was there, right? So someone's paying some attention.
He was dishing out some Asian Cup trophy, wasn't he, to Miyazawa. Yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, the thing with the United fans, they're very loud, and there's always frustration with Skinner, and I think it's hard to know where that ends, really. But let's talk about another chaos game, which was Chelsea 4, Aston Villa 3 on Sunday. Not the chaos that I expected, but very much entertaining. I really did not see this one coming. Aston Villa taking an early lead. Then Chelsea went 3-1 up, Jessy, and then Villa pulled it back 3-3, and it took a very late Nusken winner to claim the game for Chelsea. This was just complete messy madness. Jessy, what was your Chelsea take on it?
Obviously, to concede so early is rubbish, but Lucy Bronze basically assisted all 3 goals, so it's quite hard to sort of separate from like one individual's very bad performance. But for what it's worth, I thought Chelsea dealt very well with that, and I think, when we're thinking about United and sort of tiredness and pressure, Chelsea and United are duking it out for like a third Champions League spot, and Sky Comms seemed obsessed about going on about the title, which is so funny to me, because I'm like, there is a very real possibility that Chelsea don't get Champions League football next season. That is a huge story. Why are we talking about Chelsea like not winning the title that they're obviously not going to win, when like that is a much more interesting, bigger and exciting story anyway? Obviously they've been in a position where, they've seen United drop points, they pick up points. They knew United had obviously lost the day before. And it's like, okay, but you really have to win here, because you need to give yourself some kind of buffer, because there's 3 games left and you've got United on the last day of the season. But I thought they responded really well, given that, they've struggled, I think, mentally when they've gone behind in other games. And I mean, when I say they responded really well, Lauren James responded really well. She basically ran the show. They scored the 3 goals. And then Sonia said it afterwards in her post-match on Sky, at 3-1 up, you should just take control of the game. But Lucy Bronze had other ideas, and sometimes that happens. Is
it in a good way that she gets this one out of her system?
No. There should be none of this.
You think it's the beginning of the end?
No, I don't think it's the beginning of the end. I think it's a bit like what Gilly said. I think it's hard when you're playing a lot, and obviously Ellie Carpenter's been away, so she really has had to play a lot.
But she does have these moments, and that's what I mean getting out of your system is Lucy Bronze plays at such a ridiculous, consistent, elite level. And then every now and then there are a few moments where she has a poor game. And because we're not used to seeing it and it feels such an anomaly, it does become a bit more heightened. And that's why I feel like it is sort of one of those getting out your system games where luckily this has happened in a game against Villa where they've still won and not in the Champions League. But it's all about how you bounce back and don't make this the start of a run of poor performances.
Yeah, I mean, I think my worry would be is that sometimes I feel like when Bronze has these moments, she starts really trying to do it all. Like, it's almost like she has to, like, start trying to, like, prove herself again. And sometimes that can lead to her forcing it a bit. But, you know, it was a really crap performance from her. The Chelsea back line has chopped and changed loads. As a result, I think when you're thinking about the tiredness in combination with, like, not necessarily this, like, familiarity with how you're playing, who you're playing with. I think a bit of my concern will be that even within those Bronze errors, then it also felt like Chelsea's defence were quite sleepy. But I think, like, the position Chelsea are in, one, I will say, kind of enjoying the, like, campness of it all. I don't know why. I thought I'd be, like, despairing.
Wait, what's camp about it?
3-3 at half time. That's camp. Being this chaotic, camp. I kind of love it. I don't know. I think...
No, but not even... It was 3-3 within 34 minutes.
34 minutes,
Unbelievable.
I think I'm just so... Obviously, the Champions League, the race for the Champions League place is stressful and it would be really bad not to get in. But I think I'm so used to, like, the tension of a title race that I'm kind of enjoying this, like, different new feeling, that it feels less like doom and gloom. I don't know why. Maybe it's because we still won.
You feel like there's less at stake than when you're chasing in a title race?
For me, what I will say at this point is this season has been, by Chelsea standards, so bad. We're probably about to go out of the Champions League, almost certainly about to go out of the Champions League, although I did have a dream we overturned it.
Susan Ball, I had a dream.
Yeah.
Who scored?
Lauren James, and we won. Does this maths even work? I think we won like 4-1 or something.
Bet on.
Yeah, put a bet
4-2.
on.
I think we won 4-2. So what would that be?
On aggregate?
That'd be 5-5. So no, that can't have worked. But in my dream, it meant we went through. Anyway, we're probably going to go out of the Champions League.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we will finish third. So maybe that's why I'm not too worried about it. But as a result, I've just got to the point where, like, everyone's injured. This team is rubbish. They really struggle with, like, lots of very obvious things. It's not going to be fixed between now and the end of the season. Do you know what I mean? There are 3 WSL games left. There's probably 1 Champions League game left. And then you've got, hopefully, 3 FA Cup games. You just got to try and win. Do you know what I mean? Like, nothing's going to tactically change at this point.
Any means necessary.
And we did. So,
Yeah.
and it was really funny.
And it helps when you've got Lauren James doing what she's doing at the moment, because you do watch this game and think, no matter how bad this defence is, she probably dig them out the hole. And I think it makes a big difference as well yesterday having Ellie Carpenter and Sam Kerr back. I think you saw that Ellie Carpenter had so much energy. It didn't look like she'd just played in a major tournament for across about 4 weeks. She was really aggressive in how she played, and it'd be interesting to see how that might impact the second leg. Sam Kerr, I mean, she's got to start midweek. A really good finish. But
The assist for the 4th as well.
Yeah.
Was, like, just a really nice layoff for Sio to hit it perfectly.
And I actually thought both teams deserve credit in a weekend of bad defending on some really nice attacking moves. Chelsea's 4th goal, there's some really nice one-touch passing. And same with a lot of Villa's goals. Like, I think we should shout out and call out the bad defending, but at the same time, I can't remember if it was Arsenal's, not the hat-trick, but Arsenal's 4th goal was a really nice move. There was, in all these moments, some beautiful one-touch passing that we should shout out, but especially on Chelsea's 4th and a couple of Villa's goals. But I do think you saw that impact of having Kerr and Carpenter starting. But Jill, it just feels like with Chelsea at the moment, and you can speak to us as a defender, there's such a fragility that any team, playing them knows that they must just smell goals instantly.
Yeah, I thought that yesterday they was very, I think, passive with their defending. And I think, like, obviously, Lucy Bond's coming in to do the centre-back role as well. Like, you look at the first goal when she passed it across the box. If she's playing that from a right-back position to the centre-back or even to Kira Walsh in the middle, it's probably not going to go the way it went yesterday when she's a centre-back. I think the goal as well where Kirsty Hansen pulls off her back shoulder, if she's in the right-back position, she's probably bombing in there to get that cover on, or at least telling the centre-back to open your shoulder. But I think Carpenter's busting the gut to try and get back, but there's probably that lack of communication as well. But yeah, it just looked, I mean, I was doing the game for 5 Live and I was at a different, I didn't see no replay either, so like I had to be really like on it when I'm watching it. But like even with Villa's build-up, like it just went so easily through Chelsea's midfield, and then it was sort of everyone was just like watching, and then it's like then the reaction is like after the goal's gone in.
And it did make a difference when Erin Cuthbert came on. I think that's when she doesn't start, I think you do see that probably lack of aggression and control in midfield. We had a couple of Chelsea related questions. Maddie Higgs has said, did Bompastor's stubbornness to not start Kerr, and more specifically Kerr and James together early in the season, lose us the league? Obviously James has had her fitness issues, so she wasn't necessarily available early in the season.
I don't really think, I mean, the Kerr thing's complicated because she was out for such a long time. I think it's only in 2026 that I felt like she is obviously fully fit. And I think in the sort of first half of the season, in 2025, to me it wasn't exactly clear how fit she was. I don't know that. And then in 2026, I would have liked to see her start more. But I also don't know like what conversations were going on with regards to the Asian Cup, like how they wanted to play that. It was obviously a very meaningful thing for Kerr to get to go and captain her country at a home tournament, especially when she missed out on the vast majority of doing that at the World Cup because she was injured. So, I don't know. I think Bompastor should have played her more in 2026. I don't think, I've said all through the season, the thing that's cost us the league and the thing that's costing us is defending. Like, for me, it's not an attacking issue. It's not to say there's not attacking issues, and I would have started Kerr, but I don't think playing Kerr throughout the season changes where Chelsea end up, because I think they were always just going to concede this goals with the way this defence defends at the moment.
Grace has said, can we have a minute's silence in honour of the death of defending?
Can I tell you what's rattling me?
Yeah,
and
go on then.
You guys can see if you think this is fair or not.
Okay.
Hannah Hampton never moving for stuff. Too much standing. And I don't always love a performative attempt to make a save if it's obviously going in. But the goal we conceded against Brighton, she like seems to think it's going wide and it goes in. Hansen hits the post here and she's just standing there like rooted, like looking at it.
Midweek in the Champions League.
Champions League. And I'm like, I'm not expecting her necessarily to make the saves. And maybe it's just because I'm rattled by how many goals we're conceding. I just would like to see my goalkeeper try to make the saves. Is that crazy of me?
She is. You know what's so weird is how things change so quickly. At the start of the season, you were watching Chelsea games where Hannah Hampton was keeping her side in it because the defending was so poor, and they were relying on Hampton.
Against Arsenal, she did also like have good moments. I'm not saying this is it's specifically a shot stopping thing that's rattling me. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, and I do think she's the whole defensive unit is not in a good moment for Chelsea. That's
but the
what I will say.
Hansen one, like, it obviously didn't go in, so it didn't matter. But I was just like looking at her, and I was like, why aren't you like? It's from quite a long. It's like from 22 yards out or so. Why are you just watching this, like hoping it goes? What? Like, try and get there.
Maybe she just thinks she's going to do what the defence is doing, just watch.
Yeah, what is it watching?
You're just having a great time in King's Meadow.
I watch. You play.
Well, on that note, let's move things on. Let's talk about the other derbies next. Let's talk about North London Derby, Arsenal 5, Tottenham 2. I want to start with the very emotional pre-match moment. Kim Little brought to tears coming out to see her tifo. She signed a 1-year extension with the club. She's made her 400th appearance. She came out with her family. And she is such a sort of like Andy Murray style stoic Scotswoman, right, in everything she does. She's not one of the big personality girlies. And it's been talked about as well in how the Arsenal leadership works, because she wears the armband, but she's not as vocal as some of the other characters in that squad. So to see her have this moment where she kind of shows her emotional vulnerability and is so overwhelmed with everything, that was amazing, Jill, before kickoff, because she has this sort of brave face that she puts on. But she was really sort of, you could see her taking that breath and thinking, wow, this is amazing. For someone as well, and we talked about when they won the Champions League, but someone who would have played at a time for Arsenal women where, you know, you were always playing at Meadow Park in front of maybe, you know, a couple of thousand, and now she gets to lead her team out at the Emirates with a huge tifo all about her. That journey to witness and for her to experience that is so amazing.
Yeah, and she's such a humble person, so I think it's even nice. I remember I was at home obviously for the derby, and it come up on the screen and I see that she was choked, and then I was a bit like, because I'd missed the sort of, because I was travelling back, I missed the sort of preview of it. So and I knew she obviously got her 400 appearance, so I was a bit like, what's going on? Like, she announced like her retirement or whatever. So like, I jumped on social media, and then it obviously had a picture of her like nieces and nephews in that, and obviously saying about the 400 appearance, and just to see her and like coming out, and she saw it, didn't she? She's like, wow, like, and I just think, I remember when I was at Arsenal and Kim first signed, and no one knew nothing about her, because obviously back then you're looking at like the players that we had in the Arsenal team, like the Kelly Smith, Adrian, it's all really like the known English players. Obviously we had Fleets, we had like Luds and stuff, but Kim was just this youngster who come through and signed like under sort of a bit of a radar, and then she's just been like so consistent for Arsenal, and she's one of those ones where she's not the big look who I am, look what I've achieved sort of thing. She just turns up, does what she needs to do. And she's not like as vocal as there's other leaders in there, but she's not afraid to say, no, like, this is what I think we should be doing, or this is what I believe sort of thing, or the standards that she sets, I think, are what she carries herself without having to be vocal about it. I mean, I love playing with Kim because she was always and sometimes this sometimes causes her issues, I think, at times, because she always wants the ball, even if she's got several players around her. But when you're a centre-back and you're playing with her as a midfielder, you never have to worry that there's never not going to be an option, because she will always come and look for it and help you. But I think it was just really nice and fitting for on Saturday for her to have her moment, because I know there is a lot of talk sometimes that she is the Arsenal captain, but I think people automatically presume that Williamson is the Arsenal captain, and I think that in regards to like respect and that, like, I do find that a little bit disrespectful. But for Kim, she's not someone who comes out and goes, well, like, I'm the captain. She sort of just takes it in her stride and is very humble about it, and I just think it was very fitting for her to have Saturday.
And there was a brilliant moment in the first half, which was the first moment she sort of got involved with the game, when she did this like unbelievable slide tackle just over the halfway line to win the ball back. And we obviously know her as a player who's so confident and good on the ball, but when you see those sort of moments where she like digs in defensively, you're like, wow, like, she really can do it all, even in these latter stages of her career. And as well as that Kim Little moment, we got another unbelievable Alessia Russo performance. At times, again, Spurs' defending was maybe making it a little bit easy.
Lisa Kopp, girl, what are you doing?
Well, the goal that cemented the hat-trick was Lisa Kopp just passing it to her.
When Spurs had got back into the game, totally against the run of play.
And the marking for the first header was really poor. But again, it just kind of, there's something about second half of the season Russo where she just goes on turbocharge. And I think it is, some of these players just take a little bit longer to build into the season. And we've spoken so much about Russo becoming this player who kind of drops into the 10 role and has to be part of build-up and presses and her running numbers are insane and the ground that she covers is insane and she tries to do it all, and how that kind of eats into her goal scoring numbers a little bit. But post Idaval leaving and this second half of the season, she has gone on these unbelievable charges.
Well, I think something that's really interesting as well is, you see Viv getting 2 goals in the Manchester derby, and I think she's had a great season at City, and it feels like she's really settled in there after kind of quite an injury-ridden first season. But it's really funny that there was all this sort of like hand-wringing about, Viv wanting to play as a 10 at Arsenal and whether it works and whether Arsenal really wanted to do it, and the way that they've actually sort of just ended up moulding Alessia into kind of that player, right? And I think I do feel at points the chopping and changing hasn't necessarily suited her, and I think I like her best as a 9, but I think when you look at the different profile that Stina offers in particular, you can see why you want to keep both those qualities in the team. But yeah, I think she's had a great season all round, and she had a great season last year as well. It feels like we've really seen her, I think especially under Slagers, develop into that like more consistent, reliable player. And look, I think the goals against Spurs, like they're goals you expect her to score, and compared to the one she scored against Chelsea, like that finish against Chelsea, I'm like, boof, that's like proper great striking ability. Whereas this was more like, I guess, your meat and potatoes. But yeah, I mean, she's on a great run of form, and she really suits the way Arsenal play at the moment, I think.
And we saw it all in the space of a week, because we saw the higher quality finishing that she brought in that Champions League game, as well as all the off-the-ball stuff that she does get credit for, but is really important. And her relationship with Stina Blackstenius, specifically in that midweek game, was so good. But then on the weekend, those finishes were easier, but she's also having to get in the right positions for them. She's having to read the game well and take those opportunities. Another element, I think, and I spoke about it midweek, was just sort of like the versatility that she has to her game, because she is someone who can absolutely do it all, and then when you add the goal scoring numbers, that makes it even more exciting for her as a player. Funny tweet which I enjoyed was Katina McStenius saying, curving her run to stay onside, then casually slotting into the side netting. Who is this imposter, and what has she done with the real Stina? Obviously Stina didn't start this game, came on as a sub, but took her goal so well. Another player who's in an unbelievable run of form, and even though she has unfortunately got a bit of this like funny tag to her, she's having a really, really good season.
She scores a lot of important goals for Arsenal, and like it was a kind of a joke before because they were like League Cup goals. Then obviously she scores the Champions League goal. And again, I think it's like a lot of credit to Slagers in terms of, it feels like, especially in the second half of the season, like I think we spoke earlier in the season, it all felt a little bit too predictable in terms of Russo starts in the 9, Stina comes on, Russo shifts back. And I think what we've seen more in the second half of the season is a little bit, I guess, probably on a sort of rotational basis, a little bit on a tactical basis, picking and choosing the games that Stina comes into, but in a way that like has moved away from this feeling of like, how Arsenal will start and what subs they will make, and more into we might be able to like hedge a bet on how the Arsenal will start, but it is a little bit less predictable. And I think that kind of maybe a better integration of Stina as well. Like I think she's always felt like quite a confidence player, and that's probably what we're seeing at the moment. But again, I think that's like credit to Slagers and her man management, if that's like what is allowing you to kind of get the best out of that player.
And also you add kind of Liv Smith and Chloe Kelly to that mix, it both in decent form as well, and that allows you to make those more unpredictable decisions about who's going to start, who's going to come off. Sometimes fitness and injury issues also play into that. But
the other thing I think I'll say is lots of good strikers are volume players, right? And I think Stina's always felt like a player who needs volume. And actually I'd say someone like Alessia Russo doesn't necessarily feel like that. I think she is someone who you can back to maybe take that 1 or 2 chance. But I think it's telling that as Arsenal, because of like especially players like Smith and Kelly coming in, Mead, as Arsenal have been this season, grown the season into a better attacking unit, I don't think it's surprising that you're seeing Blackstenius like score more and take more chances, because I think she gets more of those opportunities to have a go at. And I think that's something that makes a difference for her. I don't, like she obviously has examples where she does like do the one finish from the one chance, Champions League final kind of case in point. But I think generally as well, that's something that benefits her, having Arsenal be able to create more generally, and maybe just being able to relax a little bit more in that space, that like stuff is going to come away, because she's such a willing runner. That's what you want from a striker, to be able to keep on doing that and keep on going. But maybe in the past, when it has felt a little bit like, oh, there's only one chance here, that's when she starts to like snatch at it or look a bit more nervous, like when it comes to her.
Jill, Spurs, back-to-back games conceding 5, back-to-back games conceding hat-tricks to WSL strikers. It's not a good look. Toko Kogo's added a lot to Spurs defensively, but I have not liked Spurs all season defending set pieces. I think they've progressed a lot this season, but defensively I still really don't like the look of them.
I'm going to say this is a shout out, to Martin Ho, whoever, if Spurs, anyone watches this or listens to this show, I'll come and sort your defending out. I'll actually come. You don't even have to pay me.
I think we should...
Gilly!
Right, you do have to pay me.
Yeah, come on. Don't sell yourself short like
you have
that.
to pay me, yeah.
I think we should start running, and we'll take commission as the Gilly Flaherty coaching camps, where you just go in over the summer with WSL teams and do defensive workshops.
I could see that as a Sky
VT, like little series.
A show, yeah.
Oh, that'd be
I
fun.
would love it. Like, I just think, everyone focused, and I like, obviously, like Kelly Smith went in as like Arsenal, like the attacking coach, like to work with the strikers and stuff. You have like set piece coaches. How many teams actually have someone who goes, normally, like, like when we done unit work, when we used to do it at West Ham, it used to be like, Conch's gonna come and done some work with us, obviously, and he was really well listened to and respected, because obviously he played for many, many years at the top level. So you listen to him, but it's just like, how many teams, I wonder, actually sit down and like, it's the bare basics. That's what really grinds on me. Like, it's just, this is basic level of defending that you should know from like a young age. And like, it's the standards that you set yourself. Like, I'm talking like 1v1s, like players not knowing how to like get hold of other players and make it difficult to them, or like open bodies.
Do you know what's really starting to rattle me is there's been this bad habit that's come in, speaking on the sort of like Premier League wrestling, anything goes, where defenders have started at corners or free kicks thinking that the best way to defend is just holding someone, and they think that's the best way to mark your player.
Yeah.
Spurs were doing it constantly in the Arsenal game. I've seen other defenders do it. And I just don't know if they've been watching it in the Premier League and they think this is now the trending thing, or, surely it's not a coaching thing. But it's not sustainable, because you might give away a penalty anyway, because if you're holding, that's the most obvious thing to the ref. But also, the player is facing the ball that's coming into them. You're holding them from behind, especially if they're bigger than you, they're taller than you. You're not gonna block or stop them. I just don't understand why that habit has crept in, and I'm seeing it so much. I'm just thinking, this is awful defending.
Yeah, I never done that. I used to be, when I was doing set pieces, because I was obviously one of the better headers in the team, I'd be like on like a lot of the time they do like half zonal, half man marking. So I used to be on the zonal, and then I'd think touch, because my thing is just, wherever that ball is, like, I can be brave and go, especially like if it's in my channel, but if I feel like I can go out and win it. And then they always used to say to the blockers, you've got to make it hard, so that basically that zone players, they then have the space to attack it, so you're trying to block. But then you're losing the fact of that you also can attack that ball. Like, yeah, if you have the headers that are there, the zonal players to come attack it, but if that's coming, when I end up having to go out and do man marking, I didn't particularly like it, because I knew what my strengths were just being held with. But I used to constantly all the time, even if you just get a little hold on them, I would never hold them fully, because I would have been spun and gone, man. I'd been on the floor. But you're looking all the time at ball player. I feel like we get so set in like player, and then like you say, that player's coming and running on. They've already got an advantage over you, but have that bit of like, I don't know, that pride in making it as difficult as you possibly can for a player.
It's a combination of lack of awareness. I do think there's a real ball watching issue, but also a lack of bravery. I've talked about already this season, just like you said, Jill, attack the ball. I don't know if it's... Yeah, I don't know why it's become such a big issue, but it is rattling me. You talk about Hannah Hampton's lack of goalkeeping rattling me. It's rattled me for seasons and seasons, but this year feels like a real epidemic.
Can I give 2 shout-outs, though?
Okay.
One to Tinker Tamberg for scoring, because...
I quite liked her header, to be fair.
Yeah, and also, like, it feels so cute that she's a massive Spurs fan. I don't know why. I guess because I feel like... I love when... I know Spurs are a massive team, but it does always feel funny when people from abroad are like, they support like quite a random team.
Because normally it's always Manchester United.
Or it's like Dagny supporting West Ham. I'm like, love. And I thought it must have been sick to score at the Emirates in the North London derby, even though it wasn't in front of her fans. And Beth England for 200 WSL appearances and a great goal.
Why didn't she start? That is my question.
Well, I don't know. I didn't mind the setup. I mean, obviously Micah coming back and going straight in, but like I can see why they'd line up like that.
What I always like about Beth England is she has so much energy. She works so hard, and I feel like maybe that was missing. In that's what because I think any game she plays in,
I've got to be honest. I thought for Spurs, it was the defending that was so bad. Unless you're putting England in a back for it, I don't really know what's difference that would have made.
But I think you saw instantly how she lifted and how, well, I suppose you get that against tired legs a little bit, but and she was so aggressive.
Yeah, but like when you're in that position, do you know what I mean? It's almost like when you're so far back, then everyone like gets up for a little bit.
And she's also willing to take more risks. I mean, she nearly scored an absolute screamer as well, because she's just kind of willing to have a go. And we got to shout out the 2 Daphne Domsalars. You got the unbelievable save followed up by a bit of a chuck it into your own net moment. So I quite like the levels to it. Jill, as we wrap up the weekend of derbies, speaking of bad defending in 1v1s, I knew you were rattled on comms with this one. Liverpool beating Everton 3-2 in the Merseyside derby at Goodison. Kerry Holland, what a game. She scored a screamer. She was, she won player of the match, understandably, totally deserved. But her screamer goal, the defending was atrocious.
Nah, mate, honestly.
I could hear the smoke coming out your ears.
I was fuming.
Like, it was so funny on comms.
Funny.
Like, I was fuming. Like, the ears, the headphones did come off now. I went to like, scat. Do you know what? Is also, you're talking about things that grind in us, yeah? Mine is teams who are trying to play out from the back, yeah? When you ain't got the quality to do it.
But that sums up Everton for the years, Jill.
Yeah.
It annoys me so much.
It's one of the most painful things, because it's like you're playing out from the back, yeah, with no urgency whatsoever. You've got a high Liverpool press, yet there's no movement off the ball. There's no awareness to think, do you know what, right, I don't know what they're doing as well with their goal kicks, because they're getting Fernandes to take the goal kick to pass it to Brosnan. What are you doing? Like, so there's all that going on. And then it was that Kerry Holland goal, the third one.
Did you nearly get up and leave?
If I could have chucked myself on that pitch, mate, I would have dragged them players off myself. The fact of with Blundell and Mace, by the way, allow Olsen and Holland to do a little dum round the corner, and how none of you are even bringing anyone down in that situation. Then Fernandes, I don't even know what she was doing. She was having a cup of tea and biscuits on the other side of the pitch, mate. Kerry Holland has started from in her own half. She's just casually jogging over. I think Kerry Holland's a bit like, what are you doing?
She was just doing that classic thing where she's just running backwards the whole time, thinking, I'll just give you loads of space, and you're thinking, well, you've got to engage at some point.
You have to engage. And then it takes Maz Pacheco, who's probably on the other side as the left back, has come all the way in, and it's taken Maz, really, even when Kerry Holland cuts on the right foot, Fernandes still don't take one step towards the ball. And it's just like, it's so frustrating, because I'm like, that's things that, right, you're covering position. First of all, Ruby Mace and Hannah Blundell, you need to sort that out first of all.
Well, the thing that rattled me almost more as well was that space in between those two players was on every time.
Yeah.
Every single time for Holland to make that run.
Well, there was loads of passes that happened in the first half where they played that ball
just in between
down.
the two of them.
Yeah, and it's just like, it was painful. It was absolutely painful. But credit to, Kerry Holland has to do a lot of work. She has to travel.
It's a great finish.
It's
as
a
well.
beautiful
It's a great finish. It's a great finish, and I think I saw lots of people sort of talking about the defending on social media, but the fact that she managed to bend it into that other corner is
that almost felt like LJ-esque, I thought, as well. The way there's like, so it feels like there's so little like backlift to it, but it just like absolutely pings off her foot.
It just really was a weekend of bad defending. We're all so rattled by it. It was a new low, I think.
I loved Grace Fisk talking herself off the pitch as well to make the game more exciting. That was fun.
And when the commentator I was working with tried to talk to me about dissent, and I was like, listen, I'm not the best person to be talking about dissent because I can't even talk about the situation because I got sent off for very similar and I was captain as well at the same time. So, do you know what I mean?
And was Fisky at West Ham at that point? Maybe she learned it from you? Or did she arrive
I think I
after you
did
gone?
teach her a lot, to be fair.
Hey, she's got an England call-up, so learn from the best, man. Okay, and WSL 2. We had a big swing in the narrative yet again. So this whole season, we've been talking about the scam that is Charlton Athletic at the top of the WSL 2 table. And then a few weeks ago, they lost to Portsmouth of all teams.
And it's all fallen apart.
And what was so funny is the WSL 2 graphic they put out was like Charlton had died. It was a black and white picture of like ending the run. But they hadn't died. All that had happened was Portsmouth had beaten them 2-0 to end the run. Since then, Jessy, the slide is real because they lost 3-2 to Palace on the weekend, which means their lead at the top of the table is now just 3 points.
Yeah, well, not even that. They've now lost 3 of their last 4 WSL 2 games, having not lost all season.
And what game is on the last day of the season?
Birmingham. But it's a little bit different because obviously I was like, oh my God, not Birmingham going to this last day of the season shootout again for second year in a row, obviously after they had the game against London City Lionesses. But because there is 2 automatic promotion spots, it might not be quite as dramatic.
But it's still the title.
Palace are sneaking their way, up. And yeah, it's still the title. And obviously Charlton having led all season. I mean, look, the Charlton being scammy thing, like, it's become a little bit of a bit. And sometimes they do play well, but like, I've just watched them in a couple of games and I'm just like, this team really has not much going for them. And yeah, it does really feel like the luck's run out there. And it'll be interesting to see how they lock in from here, because I mean, fair play to Birmingham as well, because Charlton went 1-0 up and then they went 2-1 down. At that point, Birmingham was still drawing with Bristol City, and I was like, oh, are they going to capitalise on this? And in the end, Birmingham did win 1-0 to end up 3 points behind with the game in hand. So tasty.
The game is at the Valley on the 2nd of May. Shall we all go? I don't know what the clash is then.
It's the Champions League semi-finals. I'm going to go on holiday.
It's the second leg.
Yeah.
That's
how confident I am about Chelsea.
You're leaving the country yet again.
I'm going on holiday for the second leg of the semi-final.
Jessy is deserting to avoid the Champions League semi-final. Yeah, that is
it is tasty. If I was
Yeah.
going to be in the country, I would definitely.
And Birmingham have really gone for it. They've spent a lot of money to try and secure this promotion, and there's a lot up for grabs. But I do think being able to call yourself title winners and have that trophy, even if there's more, there's a lot of promotion places up for grabs, I do think that's gonna be tasty on the last day of the season. And the WSL fixture gods know what they're doing now, and they set these up. They know what they're doing every season. So yeah, very exciting. We'll leave it there. We're going to be back on Thursday talking about the second legs for Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester United and Bayern. It's Good Friday, so the studio is closed on Friday in the UK. So we're going to be talking about Wednesday night's fixtures on Thursday's show. Jessy famously leaving the country to not talk about Chelsea's second leg, enjoying the sunshine in Barcelona.
But I will keep my promise. If you want a voice note, I'll give a voice note.
Okay.
I just can't promise how many pints I might have had when I do it.
You might need it, to be honest. Jill, are you doing are you going to do a Champions League game this week?
No, I'm just going to be able to watch them this week. So I am going to keep an eye on the tie that I done last week though for Disney. I done Wolfsburg.
I
and
think
Lyon.
that's probably the most interesting one of the 4. Not to like overly hipster myself, but Barcelona Real Madrid is done. Chelsea Arsenal, I don't feel particularly confident about. It doesn't feel in the balance. Like, I think if Chelsea score in like the first 15, maybe then it will get like exciting.
But they probably will concede in the first 15.
But they'll probably also concede twice, so then it will still be over. And I'll beat my record for earliest pint on the concourse. Bayern United, I just kind of think Bayern will be fine.
Yeah, but the thing about
Wolfsburg-Lyon, I'm like...
The thing about that Wolfsburg-Lyon time, it's just I know Lyon are going to go turbo.
See, I don't feel confident. They drew with Strasbourg at the weekend.
I don't...
Chelsea adjacent Strasbourg.
I'm getting too excited about it, and I don't trust Wolfsburg to be able to dig deep and not concede.
Wolfsburg did look good, though, in the game. And Lyon, I just felt like with Lyon, it was very much like just relying on a little bit of individuals.
Yeah.
And they didn't really look like, yeah.
We'll see. Maybe it will deliver the big shock of the round. We'll be back on Thursday talking about those Champions League games. Enjoy watching them wherever you are. We'll see you then.